The Drive with Tim Donnelly, 99.9 The Fan on a Monday. And what better way to start off a Monday than with some breaking news? The Carolina Hurricanes have re-signed 25-year-old restricted free agent forward Martin Necas to a 2-year, $6.5 million per year deal. This will help them avoid arbitration. This will allow the Canes to plan the rest of their moves accordingly. This is one that we've been speculating about for months and months, if not years. So, luckily, here at 99.9 The Fan, we have our very own Canes expert, Canes insider that operates in our building. So we just told, or we asked, I should say, Adam Gold to stick around for the beginning of this show. Adam, we'll get to Martin Necas' side of this. Mm-hmm. What does this do for Seth Jarvis? Is all of this now going to come into picture the way that I hope it will?
It basically lets them know that they've got more than enough money to pay Seth. Seriously, they probably could have gone to $8 million and still had enough to pay Seth. The cap number is bigger. The cap room is bigger than people think. Because
I'm sure you just saw my eyes get big.
Right.
That made me feel good.
Because what people don't understand is that, yeah, they've got a lot of money put out in contracts, but some of these guys can end up in the minor leagues. So even if it's an NHL contract, let's just say Eric Robinson, for instance, and I don't know why we're talking about this, who makes $950, if he clears waivers and goes to the minor leagues, the cap hit would end up being like $200. Because you can bury the minimum salary in the minor leagues. So the Hurricanes have more than enough room. I did the math, back of the napkin math, a couple of times, and I've got them before Seth Jarvis at about 70, let's just say just under $80 million. Mm-hmm. And that's for a complete roster. That's more than enough to sign Seth Jarvis.
So actually, that's kind of goes back on what I was saying there, because I was thinking the Martin Necas deal gave them the buoys that they would have to kind of swim between. That's almost off the table. So this is just about Necas.
Yes.
6.5 avoids arbitration. How big is this for the Canes?
Well, it's enormous. First of all, we'll talk about it in other terms. Mm-hmm. You need middle of the bat, right? Middle of the lineup bats in order to win in the NHL. And Martin Necas is a middle-of-the-order bat. He is a scorer. If you wanted to put a range on it, between 65 and 80 points. Maybe it's closer to 65, but he was almost a point a game 2 years ago. So, and most people thought, well, it was kind of a down year for Necas. I actually thought his postseason was better than his regular season in terms of the way he played. Didn't get the ton of production out of the postseason, but that happens in the postseason, unless you're Edmonton. So I love the way he played in the postseason. And I've always thought this about Marty. All of the stuff that we heard about during the offseason about not wanting to be here, all of that, yeah, that's people around him. Necas never said that. And he was resigned during the year that they were going to move him. So I'm sure he was kind of bummed about that. But I think this is where he wants to be. He wants it to work here. And there's some pushback over how it's going to work. He has an idea for what he is. Rod Brind'amour has an idea for what he is and how they need to get there. They're going to have to meet in the middle, maybe, or maybe Nature's going to have to go a little bit more to where the coach is. But I think ultimately this is best for both sides. It gives them 2 years to figure it out. But also, if they decide it's not going to work, 2 years, $6.5 million for that guy, that's a movable contract. So they could accommodate Necas in some ways if they did something like this. But ultimately, I think the Hurricanes need him, and I think he needs the Hurricanes. I love everything about this deal.
There are seemingly two things that the groundswell have said. Actually, the groundswell, his dad said in an interview a while ago.
That happens.
Which is center and first-team power play.
Right.
Do you see either of those opportunities with 2 years, a commitment from them, that meet in the middle? Do you see him getting any more of those opportunities?
First-team power play, yes. I'm going to throw in one other thing because I'm not sure center's going to happen, but I think he'll get his job back on the penalty kill. Necas actually, for almost an entire season 3 years ago, was actually pretty good on the penalty kill. Then Seth Jarvis took that spot. and Jarvis is a great penalty killer. So I think Necas will get it back. Rod likes to use offensive players. He likes to use great skaters. That seems to describe Necas. He needs to get better in the faceoff circle. That's one thing holding him back from being in the middle. The other, which I've talked about this on the podcast tons, people don't – this is the way Rod thinks. I know how good he is offensively on the wing. If I move him to the middle, which I'm not against, do I get the same guy? Because we talked about middle of the lineup bats. They can't afford to move Necas from the wing to the middle and the range go from 45 to 60 as opposed to 65 to 80. They need his offense. So if moving him to the middle sacrifices the offense, look, he's not going to be Alexander Barkov. He's not going to be an elite center. What you would like is that he moves to the middle. He's good enough. He wins between 45 and 50% of faceoffs as opposed to between 35 and 40, and that he doesn't lose offense. But if you're not going to get that, leave him on the wing, but give him that other responsibility. I think the responsibility matters.
Adam Gold hanging out with us here on the Drive with Tim Donnelly, following the news just moments ago, really, that the Canes have re-signed 25-year-old restricted free agent forward Martin Necas to a 2-year, $6.5 million cap, $6.5 million per year deal. The next thing, right, because so much of this offseason was what's going to happen with Necas, what offers are coming in, how many teams are calling, what draft picks could be. Now that he's locked in for at least now, right? You mentioned 6.5 per is still very movable if they get to that point.
Yeah,
but
if
now that
both sides decide it's not going to work, then yeah, they can move it.
If this season now becomes about unlocking Necas, who do you play him alongside, right? If he's not the center, who's that second team center that's with him?
Well, it's going to be Jesperi Kotkaniemi. I will be stunned if he doesn't get the first crack at it unless they make a trade. They don't have a center among their prospects. They do, but Ryan Suzuki's not really an NHL prospect anymore. Sad. The eye injury really robbed him of an impactful NHL career. By the end of last year, Jack Drury was better than Kotkaniemi. I still believe he's better than Kotkaniemi, but size, contract will determine that he's going to get the first crack at being a number 2 center. For me, and that doesn't mean that Necas will be on the second line, I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility that Necas plays with Aho.
Interesting.
Look, Necas is that good.
That talented.
Right.
Yep.
And let's also remember that Seth Jarvis played a lot with Jordan Staal last year and played well with Jordan Staal. So because the Hurricanes are set up a certain way, I wouldn't be surprised if their lines were a lot more jumbled than people think. But right now, if you were just saying, best 3 players, it'll be Svechnikov, Aho, Jarvis. Next best 3, Kotkaniemi and Necas. We don't know who the left wing would be. Could it be a rookie? Could be. Could it be?
It'd be an awesome spot if you're the rookie.
Yeah, it would be, but that's a lot of responsibility.
A lot of trust.
And is a rookie ready to play 16 and a half minutes a game? I don't think so. Could that be Jordan Martinook?
Interesting.
People have already hurt themselves thinking about that. I get it. I'm
willing to dive into that brain pretzel though.
You don't want to delve into first line Martinook or top 6 Martinook. You don't want to get there. I don't want that for you.
$3.05 million Martinook.
I love that signing too. Frankly, I expected that to be a little bit lower than that. Good for Jordan, who has been a great soldier for the team and took a big pay cut to stay the last time. But yeah, I don't know who that second line left wing is going to be. That's what we have to determine.
So before we let you go here, I want to make sure we're not, or at least I'm not overcomplicating this, because this past season was my first one covering the Canes, watching every minute. Necas has a certain skill set that pops when you if you're out of the peripheral, you're looking somewhere else, you see him get the puck on the move, you're like,
it's ridiculous.
Who is that guy? Right?
Yeah.
You're like, oh, what's going on here? It feels electric. Is this significantly more meaningful, or is it exactly this of them keeping a talented player for 2 more years and hoping they figure out the best way to marry the team and the player, the system and the player from all aspects?
Here's the thing about it. I don't know if I'm going to sufficiently answer the question or
That's
not.
Fair. It did happen 13 minutes ago. So
no, because the way I look at it is that even to now, it hasn't not worked, right? Necas has been fine.
It's I guess it's a problem with the 71-point year. As a 53 feels like a massive disappointment when that might have been the range for him at that point in time.
It does, except that he didn't play all 82 games this year.
True.
So he had some injury issues. And last year's 71-point season, I don't think was as good as in terms of the total production, because the last quarter of it, I thought he was awful. Seriously, and you could draw the line from when Andrei Svechnikov went out with the injury. Necas went from being a point a game to a half a point a game. But overall, it took a while for those numbers to really drop, and he was awful in the playoffs. He had one good playoff game last year as the Hurricanes went to the Eastern Conference Finals. One. He scored twice. They were both incredible, offensively gifted plays that he scored on in the Devils series. They both came in the same game. But I thought he was a terrible player last year in the playoffs. This year, the production wasn't as good during the regular season, although he certainly had a lot of good moments and scored a lot of clutch goals. He's awesome in overtime. But I thought he was a much better player in the playoffs than he was. Maybe the numbers didn't look eye-popping, but I thought his play, interestingly enough, he played with Martinook and Drury almost exclusively in the playoffs, which shows you that he can play a different way, because that was much more of a grindy line, and Necas played fine on that line. So, look, if that was reprised as it would be a bad second line, to be honest. Carolina, that to me, when you look at their team, the whole is they need to be more dynamic on that second line. So they need to find some more offense there. I wouldn't want that to be the second line. Drury, Martinook, and Necas, that's not a great thing to see.
That's actually a lot on Necas. Then it's Necas, the creator, the scorer, all of it.
In the playoffs, because they did kind of jumble it all. Remember, Jordan Staal was kind of their second center in the playoffs. But, yeah, I'm not worried about it, because I think to this point, I think Necas has been a pretty productive player. I think he can be better. The team thinks he can be better. He thinks he can be better. And I said this before as I was wrapping up my show, I am not worried about a contract getting in the way of his desire to get better. He is wired a lot like Andre is, in that he wants to be great. So convincing him, you got to do it this way, and this is the way we need you to do it. Getting him, maybe meeting him somewhere in the middle, that's going to be the key, but I think he wants to be great. I'm not worried about it.
That's Adam Gold. You can hear him every single weekday right before this one here on 99.9 The Fan on the Adam Gold Show, giving you the insight into the Martin Necas deal. If you're just tuning in, it's signed. Martin Necas, 2 years, $6.5 million per year, sticking with the Canes.